We're back with the Flow 8 new firmware and how they implemented your suggestions and requests. Coming up next. Help the channel by subscribing and turning on notifications if you want to see more videos like this. Leave a comment, give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and please share these videos with your friends. It all really helps the channel grow. In the last Flow 8 video, we talked about the most common questions that came in from folks about this mixer, and we tried to clear up any confusion about how things worked. Along with those questions were a lot of requests and suggestions for features that people wanted to see. Some were simple and some went into a bit more depth, but there were a lot of great ideas. I passed them all along to the team at Behringer responsible for the Flow, and we're going to take a look at the latest update today. So we've got version 11732, I'm just going to call that 732, and then we will get into the beta version 733 that I've been testing on this unit now for a few days. The biggest changes in version 732 have to do with routing flexibility, and that was a source of a lot of questions and requests previously. So first up, let's go over to our menu and we'll get into our USB modes. So the two USB modes that are available now are recording and then streaming is the other one. And recording allows you to take all of the channels 1 through 8 out as direct outputs and then an additional main left right send that's pre-fade out on outputs 9 and 10. The streaming setup, however, lets you send a main left-right post-fade mix out of USB channels 1 and 2. There are some new input options as well, and we can go in here and take a look, and that allows us to route different things to channels 5, 6, and 7, and 8. So on 5, 6, you can see that I've selected to have the USB return 1 and 2 show up on channel 5, 6. So for those last 4 line-in channels 5, 6, 7, 8, we now have the ability to either choose between the line inputs, the analog inputs on board, or the returns USB 1, 2, or you can go over to 7 and 8 and pick up USB 3 and 4. So bringing those back on faders, not just on the Bluetooth USB return anymore. So that's really handy there on the input routing side. We have some new output routing options as well. Let's go take a look at what those will do. So for monitor 1 and 2, we can now select between having the mix, which would be monitor send 1, monitor send 2, going to those physical outputs on board here, or we can choose to have the USB 1 and 2 return go directly to those physical outputs. You can also choose from USB 3 and 4. So the choice now is to route either the mix that you're sending to monitor 1 and 2 from the mixer out of the monitor sends 1 and 2, just like normal, or you can route the USB returns 1 and 2 or the USB returns 3 and 4 directly to those physical outputs. So if you're creating a mix in your software and you need to output that somewhere to another piece of hardware, this is where you're going to be doing it, and that's a really nice feature. This is not, however, allowing you to route monitor mix 1 or 2 out through the USB to the computer. This is the other way around. We are talking about routing from your computer, from your software, out to these physical outputs on board. Another handy feature that they have included now is monitor link. So we can link monitor mix 1 and 2 like I have here to create a stereo monitor mix. And that's really just as simple as selecting it either on or off. And right now I'm using that with another new feature, which is the headphone routing. So right now I've got my headphones routed from the monitor mix post send, which means monitor 1 and 2 is just a stereo bus, a separate monitoring bus for my headphones, and that's really handy recording voiceovers while I'm listening back to the video playback from the Mac that's on channel 7, 8. So this is my editing computer, and this here, the return that this is connected to, is my audio recording computer for this setup, and it's really handy to be able to monitor those separately and not affect the left-right mix. So right now I've got my headphones coming from the monitor bus post-fade, and you have the choice of doing that, monitor bus pre-fade, mains post-fade, or the main pre-fade. This is a really handy alternative to just listening to the left-right. I now am using the monitor bus as my headphone bus. Another big addition here, let me zoom in on this one, is output delay. And this was a big request for a lot of folks. Anybody working with video especially would want to have some output delay available somewhere in their system. Ideally, you'd want to have options to be able to put that delay anywhere in the signal path, depending on what you're dealing with, whether it's playing back video in a live situation or trying to sync audio to video for a streaming situation. In those different setups, you're going to need to use that delay in different places, but for a mixer this small, output delay is a great start. We have main delay, monitor 1 delay, and monitor 2 delay to choose from, and all three of those can go up to a maximum of 341.3 milliseconds, which is pretty good for a unit like this. And in the future, I'm sure that will be integrated into the app, and you'll be able to deal with that there. Actually, let me just double check that to make sure I'm not incorrect. So yeah, they have not added the control for the output delay to the app yet. So a couple of features that they have added to this version of the app and the new firmware are the output pad level. So you can pad the outputs of the mains or the monitors from +4 down to -10 if you're working with things like cameras or video cameras, streaming computer inputs that don't accept +4 line level. They're looking for that prosumer -10 line level. So that's really handy, something that I imagine folks will use a lot if you're using, other recorders, devices like this, or plugging right into a recorder like a video camera. So really nice there. Another feature they have also added that should be interesting to see how folks use it, especially in the future, as Behringer is supposed to be rolling out their own DAW at some point down the line. But you can do a MIDI dump, which is an option for sending the mixer state as a sysx file to be recorded in your computer. So I'm sure some folks will be happy to see that, and I'll be interested to see what they do with it with this mixer specifically. So the big changes for the beta version that I have are just a couple of incremental things. They've added easy gain for the line level inputs. Now, easy gain's an interesting feature where you hold down both of these buttons together here, and it will allow you to choose either an individual channel or microphone. Let me zoom in real quick. You can also do it to all channels here, you see, but they've added the line inputs 5, 6, 7, and 8 to that. So when you do this, you hit go, and then you'd have the band play, or for an individual microphone like this, I would talk. Hey, check 1, 2, hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey. And it'll automatically set your input trim right in the sweet spot. And I've tried it a bunch of times, and it works really well for spoken word, gets you right in the ballpark. Of course, you could always tweak things a little bit, and you can do that from here as well. It's a really handy feature, and now they've included the line level inputs to that, even if you've got it routed to have the USB come back on those line level inputs. So very easy to use. If you have no idea how to set up a mixer and how to adjust input trims, and you just need to get a mic plugged in to do a live stream or a podcast or do a simple recording, this is a really neat feature. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. And then another feature they've put in is just simply when you go over to monitor, it now flashes to show you that you've linked those two together. So that's part of the monitor link, and they've been playing around with that a good bit so far through the different versions that I've tested as to what really works for the feedback you get on the hardware versus the software and how those two relate to each other. Some features right now obviously are hardware only, and as they get the beta up to speed, and then they're putting those into the app as those updates come out. Some additional features that have been promised down the line, future updates that they're working on currently, are going to be parametric EQ. That's a really, really highly requested one, and we'll see how and where they implement that throughout the mixer. Not sure if they're going to have the processing power to give us full parametric on everything, input and output, but they are working on some parametric EQ. Snapshot scope for loading only effects and different routing and things like that. When you recall a snapshot, they're going to have different levels of recall, just like most digital mixers now, so you can safe certain things that you don't want to change between snapshots. Very handy there. And then they're working on the option to route the effects to the monitors. And that was another big request that we got. A lot of folks are wondering, hey, can I take some reverb from my mic and put it through the monitors? And obviously that's something for a singer-songwriter, and now especially with the headphones being able to take their source from that stereo monitor mix, it would be nice to be able to blend your effects returns back in, especially if you're working with an artist that requests that kind of thing. It could just be necessary. Thanks to everybody who subscribes and supports the channel on Patreon. Links for everything are down in the description. I'll see you next time.